everybody, welcome back to my channel. And for today's video I want to talk to you guys about the money tree, also known as Pachira aquatica. And this is it right here. This is my miniature version, and it is very little and dry. So I'm going to show you guys how I water it, and I'm also going to show you my larger money tree. These plants are beautiful, easy maintenance plants and don't require much of your attention and time, and they look absolutely beautiful. So with watering these plants, you want to water roughly about 1 to 2 times a week. It just varies and it depends on the season. Oftentimes I will have to water my plant more frequently during the summertime and even a little bit in the spring, so around spring and summertime. But during the fall, winter, I can kind of cut it back down to maybe once a week. And if I overwater, underwater, they are pretty good about bouncing back. When I'm watering, I try to make sure I water thoroughly and make sure it drains really well, and you should be good. But you always want to make sure that that top 2 inches of soil is watered and moist pretty well. Well, I take my little handy dandy watering can, and for this little baby, I just water it thoroughly, just like that. See? Not much for this water to go in this little tiny pot. I have a little black pot, which I'm not able to take out right now, inside this white pot. But you can see, oh, there we go. There's some extra water in there. Hope you can see, there you go. And just kind of let that sit for a little bit. Pour a little more, just making sure it's moist, because if you just do a little bit, you're not gonna get it on the top of the soil. So you kind of want it to sit and then make sure you drain it really well. I have this big daddy here, and this one is so beautiful. But I do the same thing with this one. I'm gonna show you what kind of pot it's in a basket. And then, look, I can even just pull it out because that's how hard the soil is, because it's so dry. But it's inside this pot, just like that. So I don't take it out the pot. Probably should, but I don't, being honest. Just take this watering can and do the same thing. Just make sure I get the whole entire soil nice and wet. And I let it sit. Once I water it, I let it sit for a minute. I go and water some other plants, and then I come back to it to just kind of make sure that entire soil is nice and wet. Now, with it being in the basket and there being drainage holes in it, sometimes the water will seep through and come through the basket and cause a puddle on my floor, but I'll still go back in and do it again. And so it has a pretty good drainage system, since there's holes in the bottom of the pot and in the basket. So it's wet, but then it's not soaked. So that's very important when it comes to watering. Again, you want to make sure about 2 inches of the soil is nice and moist throughout the week to kind of maintain a healthy looking money tree. You want to make sure that they are in a bright light. These are tropical plants and they do like bright light. Now they can go to moderate light, but they don't thrive as much as in bright light. So both of mine are right next to a window. They receive a great amount of light and they thrive. Temperature. So when it comes to temperature for the Pachira aquatica money tree, they like about 60 to 75 degrees in temperature. So they don't like anything too cold. Now I did read somewhere that if it's less than 40 degrees, then it causes issues with the plant. But I even think around like 40 to 50 degrees, even somewhere around there, I don't think it's the best for the plant to thrive in. So keep that in mind. Usually indoors is pretty sufficient for these plants to thrive. As well as the humidity. They don't need a whole lot of humidity. I mean, they can benefit from it, but to be honest, I only have 2 money trees, and they're both in a dry atmosphere. Not so much moisture is in the rooms that I have them, and they do fine. I have no issues with them. They don't need humidity, but they could possibly use it to thrive even more. Propagating your money tree. So when you propagate your money tree, you want to make sure that you are getting an area of the money tree that has good stems, good leaves, and you want to look at the nodes. So the nodes are below the leaves, and you'll see it'll be kind of brown and circular. You want to cut below a node and trim there, about like at an angle, making sure that your scissors or whatever you're using to cut the stem is clean and sterile, because you don't want to contaminate the next plant that you're propagating. So make sure that you always clean with maybe alcohol or something before cutting, but you'll cut below that node, and that will help propagate your plant. So also with the money tree and propagation, you can propagate in soil, which when I read books and stuff about propagating, they say that the soil is actually better to propagate the money tree. But you also can propagate in water. I've never done water before, and I've honestly never propagated this plant. I just bought them and this is how they are, but I'm interested in trying to propagate, since we're talking about propagating the money tree, just to see how it turns out, to see how it is like soil versus water. But you can do either or. With these plants, they're not picky when it comes to soil. I've used just a standardized soil that you can miracle grow and be fine. Of course, there's better soils out there, but the miracle soil is actually sufficient. So, or any soil really. I mean, they're not really picky. Fertilizing, when it comes to fertilizing, your plants are fertilizing about once a month from spring to summer. After that, you want to not do so much. You can mess up your plant, but from spring to summer, when the growth is at its peak, that's when you want to fertilize about once a month. And I use like fish emulsion or the Earthworm Castings, kind of alternate, or whatever I feel like using at the time. That's what I typically would use during those seasons. But cleaning your money tree, it's pretty simple. You can use a rag or paper towel of some sort, just dampen it and wipe each leaf off. That way you're promoting photosynthesis. Pests that you will typically see on a money tree is mealybugs and spider mites. So the mealybugs are the ones that are like gray and whitish, like fluff, which you'll just see scattered along the leaves. And those you can easily wipe with like soap and water, or sometimes I use neem oil. This is good for a lot of pest removal. So I use this when I start to see these nasty little bugs get on my plants. The spider mites are typically, you won't see them unless you have like a microscope or something, which most of us don't. They will have spider webs all around the plant or in the plant of some sort, and that's just a sign of like you having spider mites because of the webs, but you can't really see it with your eye. So I think I hit every aspect that you will need to know in order to make your money plants happy. So if you guys have any questions, or you have anything that you want to discuss down in the comments below, please leave a comment, and also we can chat. And if you have any insights or things that you guys want to teach me, please let me know, because I'm still learning. I'm no professional, and it's cool when we all learn together. So yeah, love you all. Stay blessed.